All right, so marginal cost decreases because of efficiency, increases because the marginal product decreases, meaning that you hire a worker or a resource at the same price, but the productivity level goes down. Average total cost is driven initially by fixed cost. The fixed cost is super high. The average fixed cost is super high if you divide by only one or two or three things, but as you make like hundreds or millions of things, the average total cost decreases also because the marginal cost, the cost of creating the next one, is below the average, so that brings the average down. And then the average starts to increase because the marginal cost, the cost of making one more, is higher than the average total cost, which brings our average total cost up to the next one is higher, next one's higher, next one's higher.
On the quiz problem, where it said that to make the third, or I forget which number iPad, the average total cost would go up. But since the other ones were already made, wouldn't their cost still be 300, or would it?
No, that just the average is just the total divided by the number of things. So as you add more to it, that number is like for everything. Here's your firm creating whatever it is. Next to it is the market. I like to think of this as a farmer's market, and here's all of the supply of all the different people who come to the farmer's market, and the demand of all the people that come to the farmer's market. This is the equilibrium, the total number of, last time we said potatoes, the potatoes that get sold, and here is the equilibrium price. In a perfectly competitive market, there's free entry. You can come and go as you please. There's one price, the price created by the market. That one price is the price that you have to take as the equilibrium price. The price is the marginal revenue, how much money you bring in. It looks a lot harder than it is. How much money do they bring in for pizza in the dining hall? Pizza's $3 a piece, and they sell 100 things. They bring in $300 of revenue. They sell one more piece, they're bringing in $3 more. They sell one more piece, they're bringing in $3 more. They sell one more piece, they're bringing in $3 more. A firm in a perfectly competitive market is a price taker, and that price is the marginal revenue, and it's also the demand that they face, that they see. They don't see the entire demand curve. They only know that if they bring 100 buckets of corn to the market, or 10 iPads, or 50 cups of coffee, that people will pay that price. Because the market is way bigger than a firm can theoretically sell as much as it wants at that price. For the firm, that's a perfectly elastic demand curve. Change in quantity divided by change in price. The change in price, or the percent change in quantity for a percent change in price, is zero, because the price is that's what it is. A firm produces when the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, all the way up until the point when the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. This is how a firm decides how many bushels of corn they're going to bring to the market.
So, okay, just the marginal revenue, sorry. scenario in which the marginal cost curve intersected with the price at 2 points?
No.
So what if
Always
the price
increasing.
What if the price were down, or what if the loop?
We're gonna look at some different price points.
Okay.
So that's how much for the firm, that's how much they want to sell. Or that's how much they do sell, or that's like the way they can maximize profit.
That's the profit maximizing quantity for them. Because every transaction where the amount of money that they bring in is more than the amount of money that it costs, they take advantage of each opportunity. They're bringing in whatever number we say, $3 a piece. This one costs $2.50 to make, so they do that transaction. That one costs $2.80 to make, they do that transaction. This costs $2.90 to make, they do that transaction. All the way up until it costs $3 to make it, and they bring in $3. This big rectangle is the total revenue. Price times quantity. The area is the total revenue. Last class we did a little like, what's our average height or average age or something like that. This point right here, at this quantity, at the profit maximizing quantity for the firm, that's the average total cost to produce that net. It's not the minimum, it's just that's what the average total cost is. The average times the quantity, the average times the quantity gives you the total. You never do a calculation that way, but it's pretty easy to see the average is total divided by number, the average age, the average amount of money we have, the average whatever, multiply both sides by number, and total is the number times the average. This box is the total cost, the smaller box. And profit is revenue, the big box, minus cost.
So total cost is determined because when finding the area is equivalent to multiplying.
Height times width, or whatever, length times height, or
Yeah.
For perfect competition, there are many buyers and sellers. Think of a farmer's market, or think of like a grocery store with a bunch of different products, but the products are identical. So there's like plain cereal, and Cheerios, and Chex, and whatever other types of like plain cereal are all the same. Later we'll talk about monopolistic competition, which is when there's like really close substitutes like cereal, toothpaste, soda, all have like very close substitutes. Is root beer a substitute for Coca-Cola? Yeah. But there's like only cola being sold. That's why I do like potatoes or corn. There it is. That's the corn. You can bring corn to the market, you can bring corn to the market, you can bring corn to the market. One of the pieces for perfect competition, many buyers and sellers, everyone is a price taker, there's one price, all the goods are the same, and there's free entry and exit. Free entry and exit. What that means, you think you're right, I'm putting it over here, Joe. You'll re-record the first 10 minutes. What free entry means is you can just say, yep, I'll enter this market. You can't always do that. There's things like patents. You can't just reproduce like Tylenol and call it Tylenol but cheaper or something like that and charge a lower price because they have control over like the patent for medicine. Or if you want to sell iPads, if you can't sell the exact same iPad because they have some copyright pieces.
So if you are a company and you're selling, say, like a generic version of a thing, is that still perfect competition, or do we like
That's
factor
called-
in like
That's called
consumer-
oligopoly, which is when there's like 2 or 3 and your pricing has to be strategic, and we'll hit that after a break.
Okay.
There's 4 different types of markets that we look at. Perfect competition, a monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. There's 4 markets that are covered. This is very theoretical because this doesn't really exist. This market doesn't really exist because there are like, some people have better potatoes than other people.
So
There isn't always one price. You could barter at a farmer's market.
Okay, so like if this wouldn't be comparing like organic potatoes versus regular potatoes.
Correct.
It would just be like one
Exactly.
type.
That would be monopolistic competition when you're competing, and one way you can compete is the type of product. Okay, so you're at the farmer's market and everyone's selling potatoes, but you don't make potatoes. You do like fruits or something. And you're like, oh, look at everybody making all this money with buckets of potatoes. Because there's free entry, you're going to start planting potatoes. Why? Because there's profit to be made. If you remember from chapter 4, what happens when there's more sellers in the market? The supply increases. This is why or how a perfect competition problem would be phrased almost in like a free response problem. Draw a free response for potatoes at a farmer's market making a good profit. Okay. Part B. Many more farmers enter the market because they see there's profit to be made. Gives us supply 2. What happens to the quantity in the entire market? It increases. More suppliers. What happens to the price? The price goes down. Everyone that's still in the market is still a price taker. The price went down. So this firm produces less. That makes sense because if marginal cost is increasing, they're going to bring in, here's marginal revenue too. They're going to bring in less money. They're not going to sell as many. What about profit? Profit decreases. Makes a little bit of sense when you think of what happened. There's a bunch of profit to be made. What happens? More people jump in and try to make profit. The profit that is there to sort of distribute decreases. I'm not going to draw it. What's going to happen next? There's still profit to be made. More people are going to join. What happens is suppliers join until profits are ground down to 0. Until there are no profits. In the long run, there are no profits in perfect competition.
What about like opportunity cost? Like, what if
So-
it reaches the point when the profit to make potatoes is lower? It's still something that's lower than like another product.
This is economic profit. Economic profit includes opportunity cost. So there is still going to be an accounting profit even when there's 0 economic profit. What that means is you're still going to make 3% of your money, even invest $1,000, you're going to make $30, 3%, which is the same that you could make by going to Citizens Bank or investing in like a mutual fund or something like that. This handout is on our Canvas page. It looks at what happens for different prices. It doesn't take a heck of a lot to get to a point where you think, oh, if the price is too low, if the price is too low, a firm's going to lose money. There's going to be negative profit. We're going to look at that now with some different prices. Here we go. I don't think it is. Big bucks. I really wanted both things to be on.
What's up with that? Not working? Like why?
Yeah,
Do you know
I'll
why?
tell you right now, if I knew why,
Well,
it would be working. I would fix it.
maybe we should get Mr. Monday in.
I'm gonna go fix some more. Well, no one will waste 5 minutes trying to figure out how it works, so just see that it's unplugged, it probably doesn't work.
Technology.
Okay, we're gonna focus just on a firm right now. Remember, average fixed cost is down here. And the average total cost minus the average fixed cost. Bad drawing. Is the average variable cost. Way out here, fixed cost divided by like 100 is super small, or 1,000,000 is super small. So the difference here is the fixed cost is really small there, but it's bigger here. The fixed cost is pretty big here because the fixed cost plus the variable cost is the total cost. There are 5 different types of prices. Debbie.
Okay, so is the difference, is the space between the average total cost and the average variable cost at the very beginning the same thing as the
Average fixed cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it the same as the average variable cost?
Average
And then,
fixed cost
like,
plus
bottom?
average variable cost is average total cost.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm going to keep the numbers the same. That price way up here. Positive profit. Everything we've looked at has been exactly in that form. Semi-obviously, these are horizontal lines. At this point, this is when profits have been quote-unquote ground down to zero. This point down here, negative profit, firm should shut down. But there are two more prices to talk about.
Because the price is less.
It's less than all your costs.
Yeah.
Now, these two have some subtleties in them. I gave an example of making t-shirts once. And you buy the $1,000 stencil and t-shirt maker and squeegee and paint. And you just buy like a ton of paint. So you don't have to like, keep going and buying more paint. The only variable cost for the t-shirts is the cotton t-shirts that you go and you buy in bulk at like Sam's Club or Walmart or whatever. So they're variable costs, but you have this mega fixed cost. Let's say you do this calculation, you're like, all right, we're selling for $20. Everyone's gonna want one. And then you're like, ugh, I can't sell them for $20. I'm not gonna make a profit because someone comes in and sells like other competing t-shirts. Eventually that price gets down. Well, if the t-shirts cost 50 cents a piece for you to buy them, and you can get 25 cents, you can sell them for 25 cents, that would be a bad move. Your price that you're able to get, the marginal revenue, is less than your variable cost. Let's say you can get 75 cents or $1 for the t-shirts. It costs 50 cents for you to buy, and you can sell them for $1. Should you produce those t-shirts? You should. You're not going to make all the money back from buying the big stencil and the big machine. Here, at price 3, you have negative you're making a negative profit, but you produce, you don't shut down because you can make back some of your fixed cost. You're not going to make more than $1,000 to make a profit once you paid off your, the stencil and the big machine for making t-shirts. If the price was 50 cents, it costs 50 cents for you to buy the white t-shirts from Sam's Club. There's Sam's Clubs is down here. It's like a New England thing. I don't know if they're down here. So like
Costco?
BJ's or Costco's. Costs 50 cents for you to buy the white t-shirts, and you can only sell them for 50 cents. Certainly for 49 cents you wouldn't do it. For 51 cents you'd make a profit and you would do it. So we say when this is equal, when price equals the average variable cost, when price is lower than the average variable cost, and this is when price is higher or equal to the average variable cost. So pretend this is like an infinitesimally small amount. This is what's called the shutdown. I guess it's called the shutdown rule.
Doesn't P equal
Oh,
the
like the video on
ABC?
Canvas?
Doesn't P equal the ABC there?
Yeah, I'm pretending this is like an infinitesimally small amount.
What if it was equal though?
So remember that equal we produce. That's just as a just a base rule. If they're equal, you produce and go through with the transaction. So you produce and you make a negative profit, but you make back the fixed cost whenever the price is greater than the average variable cost, and we just say when it's equal to because it's sort of a moot point when it is equal to. You're indifferent between shutting down and creating and producing. And were you going to ask a question?
Oh, yeah, nah.
And there's a handout on this.
Oh yeah, sorry. Is this is this where sunk cost kind of comes into it?
It does, because you're not gonna get back that money that you paid for the t-shirt stencil. So the only question is the price greater than the average variable cost?
Right, because the price is definitely less than the average total cost.
Right, because you're not gonna, we don't really have numbers here, but like, you're not gonna make, you realize, well, I made a bad business decision, I'm not gonna make back that $1,000. You shouldn't just flip everything over, dump it in the trash and be like, I'm out. You should figure out, well, I'm gonna lose $1,000. Would I rather lose $1,000 or would I rather lose $500? I'd rather lose $500 so you can produce, and you can, that's why I wrote, like, in quotes, make back. You can sort of make back some of that fixed cost.
Right.
Here's what I want you to do, because it's good practice for next week's test. Give you 5 minutes to do it, and then we'll talk at 1:56 about some logistics. I want you to draw a perfect, you can do it with your notes open and whatnot, but draw perfect competition, a firm making 0 profit. Perfect competition graph has both a firm and a market, that's a hint. And then, then part B, for some reason, there's an increase in demand. Draw and see what happens next with that increase in demand on the same graph. New price, profit, less profit,
What was the first one?
You say 0 profit.
0 profit, 0 economic profit. Let me give you a hint for drawing the first part. Don't draw the average total cost curve until you've drawn everything else. Because then you're like trying to get it just right.
And then the second part is increase in demand.
Yeah. So here's the price, and draw the price all the way over, and now you know where that average.
Just kiss
You
the
say
ass.
just kiss it and go right back up,
Yep.
right?
Kiss
Kiss
the
it,
ass.
go back up. Yep. Of course.
Kiss.
This is like 8 points of a 15-point problem on the AP exam.
So
I
that's
just
if
wanna
the
roll it
like
right
profit
over
is
the
0.
average.
Yep. This is a firm. So other things that could happen is you could hear something like a firm is producing at a loss. If a firm is producing at a loss, then you know that the price is below the average total cost, but above the average variable cost. So it could be like there. But then, you need a second for the demand? You need a second to change the demand, or you good? So now I can add in some stuff from chapter 4, like Then this headline comes out. So what happens? Well, the price itself doesn't change, the supply doesn't change, but the demand changed because your product now cures some diseases. A higher price. And then you could ask like a whole bunch of questions after that. What happens to the quantity for the firm? The quantity the firm produces increases. Here's the profit now.
So if in this perfect market competition, wouldn't the profit increase and then decrease again because more firms enter the market?
And so then part E would say, in two sentences or in one sentence, explain what will happen, what would happen next to the market. So almost every question says somewhere in there something about in the short term. In the short term, I need a couple of weeks, maybe months, maybe a whole year to start making potatoes. I can't just be like, oh, next Saturday I'm bringing potatoes to the farmer's market. So in the short run, I can enter the market. But in the long run, I can't.
So
So there's profit to be made in the short run, but not in the long run.
so like, then how would the profit go back down to zero after the demand goes up?
There's profit to be made. People are going to enter the market.
Oh, okay.
A new supply. The new supply is going to lower the price.
Mhm.
And it's going to be ground back down to zero. Okay. I have three things to tell you about. The first is homework. I sent out a pacing guide. There's a video quiz on perfect market stuff. Same thing as the last one. Log in however you logged in last time. I just seen that you did it. I don't care if you get 5 out of 5 or 0 out of 5. I just want you to like do it. That's one like with the Ed Puzzle videos. There is a Canvas quiz. You get 3 attempts, and it'll take your most recent attempt. Only stuff we're doing is on perfect competition. If you look on the Canvas, once we hit Monopoly, that's after spring break, and I'll give you some points on that, some tips on that. On Canvas, due Tuesday, but it's really due before you take your test. I have a free response from, I think it's like the 2010 or 2011 AP exam. This is free response number 1, and it's a straight up perfect competition. I want you to practice one with open notes, with open everything, so you see what type of questions there are. I want you to post a response. You can post questions if you want, but I want you to post your solutions on the discussion post that I have. It's due Tuesday. If you do it Wednesday because you're taking your test on Thursday, that's not the end of the world. That's fine. Once you post, you'll be able to see a response. I responded with the AP solution. This is not for you to for me to test if you get these right or wrong. This is for you to practice. Do it with notes, with textbook. If you Google it, you can probably find the answer to it online. And you can find, just so you know that I know that you know that I know that you know, you can find I think the last 15 years of AP free response problems on the AP Central website. Most of the problems I give you are either from that set of 50 problems or they're only slight differences from it. If you want to go ahead and short-term memory all 50 of those, more power to you. But they're pretty complex and they have a bunch of different pieces. If you go through and you read through all of those and remember how to do them and know how to do them, you're going to understand how to do these in general anyway. So this is due Tuesday. Our test, there's a review session on Monday during activity period. It's going to be more of this stuff. The test is on everything we've done. It's cumulative through chapter 14, which is the perfect competition. There's 30 multiple choice and 1 free response. You can take it in 2 sittings because you probably need more than 45 minutes. You can take an hour. You can take the multiple choice for half an hour and the free response for another half an hour. You can do the multiple choice during a block and come back and do the free response during domino. You just have to do it sometime next week. Spring break, you have 2 homework assignments. One is to read chapter 15. The other is to listen to a podcast, Why Uber is an Economist's Dream, and write a 2-page response, and a 2-page response is a 1-page response, and like a paragraph or so on the second page. I'm not looking for like an essay. I'm looking for some thoughts because they use plenty of info and terminology that we've used in the course.
Those tests is from 1 to
Thank you.
14.
Not 1 through 14 because we didn't do like 9 and 10.
Okay.
I don't think we did chapters 9, 10, and 11.